Welcome back, friends. Today's lecture is a little different than the usual lectures that we take. This is actually a visual treat. So, I have decided that after every chapter that I complete, I will give some visual treats, some images, okay, that I was unable to show before. Okay, I am going to include those images for the better understanding. So, without wasting any time, let us start. Okay, so if we see, you all must have understood that this image on the left hand side is showing a normal heart, okay, and this image on the right hand side is showing a hypertrophied heart. See, compare the thickness of the left ventricle from the thickness of the left ventricle of a hypertrophied heart. Okay, so see how much it has increased. Okay, now if you look at my previous lectures, I have already discussed the mechanism of hypertrophy. Okay, so hypertrophy occurs, and in hypertrophy just the cell size is increasing. Okay, and this that I am sharing with you, myocardial hypertrophy, is an example of a pathological hypertrophy. And we also know whenever there is an increased amount of work and whenever there is an increased resistance to the work, okay, hypertrophy will take place. Let us go to the second slide. Okay, this is again a very easy slide. As we see, what is this part? This is an area of myocardial infarction showing necrosis. Okay, showing necrosis. See how this area is light as compared to the nearby visible nearby areas. Okay, how it is pale compared to the nearby viable areas. Okay, let's go to the second image. Uh-huh. So this is the basic image if you see, which is actually showing early and late changes of injury. So if you see on the extreme left hand corner, okay, we have the normal kidney tubule. See the normal kidney tubule, how the plasma membrane is intact. See how every cell is having a nucleus. Okay, see it is having a well preserved architecture and all of them is containing nucleus. Okay, but if you come to the middle image, okay, if you see the center image, that is whenever there is a reversible cell injury, that is what are the early changes of cell injury. See how there is eosinophilia. Okay, in early injury, in early stages of injury, reversible injury, you have eosinophilia, and see how there is apical blebbing. See how there is apical blebbing. Okay, so these are the early changes. And whenever there is late changes, whenever there is an irreversible injury, okay, see necrosis has taken place. Now why I am saying it is necrosis? See this part, there is no nucleus, there is loss of nucleus. See this part, there is loss of nucleus. See all the contents of the cell has come out, all the contents of the cell has come out, suggesting that there has been a plasma membrane damage. There has been a plasma membrane damage. Okay, let us go to the next image. Looking at this basic image, if you see, now why I chose this image, because I wanted to highlight the difference between necrosis and apoptosis. Okay, look, number one, look at the size. A necrotic cell is usually shows swelling, whereas an apoptotic cell shows a shrinkage. Okay, they show shrinkage. Now both necrosis as well as apoptosis, both of them are showing what we call it as blebs, cytoplasmic blebs. Both of them show. Further, if you see the difference, see over here, the plasma membrane has ruptured and all the cell organelles are lost, they have come out. But see over here, this apoptotic cell has broken into multiple small apoptotic bodies, each having an intact plasma membrane. Each having an intact plasma membrane. So the plasma membrane is intact in apoptosis and it breaks in necrosis. Also a very important difference. See how in case of necrosis we are having inflammatory cells, so necrosis is always accompanied by inflammation, whereas apoptosis they don't have inflammation. And remember, all apoptosis they end by phagocytosis of the apoptotic bodies by the phagocyte. Okay, also one thing, necrosis is always pathological, whereas apoptosis can be pathological or physiological. Hope this slide is clear. Coming to the next slide, this is a very interesting topic. See, this is an area of infarct. Actually, any localized area of coagulative necrosis is called as an infarct. This is a definition of infarct. What we are watching over here is an area of coagulative necrosis. See grossly how this area is more tan, pale and yellowish as compared to the surrounding viable areas. Also on the right hand side there is a histopathological image. See, I am drawing a line between a normal and a necrosed area. This is the part where there is a normal kidney tubule, and this is the area where it is showing an infarct. Okay, so now I want to use an eraser. Wait, look over here, look in this part. Look in this part. On the right hand corner, see this area that I want to highlight. See all the cells, the architecture is completely preserved. Okay, the architecture is completely preserved, but if you see, they are showing increased eosinophilia and their nucleus is completely absent. There is no nucleus in this area of coagulative necrosis. So if you see, this area of coagulative necrosis is showing a preserved cellular architecture and there is no nuclei Plus if you see in between, they have inflammatory infiltrate. In between they are having inflammatory infiltrate. Let us go to the next image. This is a classical image showing liquefactive necrosis. So whenever necrosis is occurring in a parenchymal organ and that area of necrosis becomes a liquid, this form of necrosis is liquefactive necrosis. You have a bag of pus over here. Now classically liquefactive necrosis is occurring in the brain. Coming to the next image. This is again a very interesting image. This is an image of caseous necrosis. See, caseous means cheese-like, friable. And this type of necrosis is classically seen in tuberculosis. Tuberculosis. This is an image showing the lung, but caseous necrosis can also occur in other parts of the body. Example, lymph node. Coming to the next image, again this is a very interesting image. This is an image showing fat necrosis. See these white spots. These are actually areas of fat necrosis. So what is happening? So whenever for example pancreatic enzymes are released, they are acting on the fat. And these enzymes are going to break down the fat, releasing the free fatty acids. Now these free fatty acids, when they come in contact with the calcium ion, they combine to form calcium soaps. These whitish things that I have highlighted, these are the calcium soaps that have formed. And this process of formation of calcium soap is called as saponification. And they occur at the sites of lipid breakdown. Here the example, they have shown the mesentery. For example, certain enzymes, certain harmful digestive enzymes, when they are released, so they are going to go and they are going to digest the fat. They will break down the fat. And ultimately fat necrosis will occur. So this is an example of fat necrosis. Let us look at the other image. So looking at this image, if you see this area that I am marking, this is an area of fibrinoid necrosis, and what I have highlighted is actually the walls of an artery. So see, in necrosis what we see, there is an increased eosinophilia, there is increased pinkishness, eosinophilia is there, plus there are inflammatory cells. So we are having inflammatory cells also over here. These are the inflammatory infiltrates. I think we see this kind of fibrinoid necrosis is basically seen in rheumatic heart disease in the walls of the arteries. Now let us look at the other image. Why I chose this image? Because this classically highlights an apoptosis. An apoptotic body. How does it look? See how condensed the cytoplasm has become and how eosinophilic, how deep the cytoplasm is as compared to the neighboring cells. See also the nucleus has been condensed. The nucleus has also condensed, and see the plasma membrane is completely intact. And the cell has shrunken in size. See, there is an artifact also. The cell has shrunken in size. So this is classically how an apoptotic body will look under the microscope. Let us look at the next image. This is also a very interesting image. On the right hand side that I am marking, this is a normal uterus. This is a normal uterus, and on the left hand side this is a gravid, or when the lady is pregnant. This is a gravid uterus or pregnant uterus. So if you see over here how physiologically hypertrophy has occurred. This occurs in normal pregnancy. In all pregnancies there will be hypertrophy of the uterus. So this is a basic example of physiological hypertrophy. Let us look at the next image. Looking at this image, if you look at this basic image, this on the left hand side is the normal uterus if you see, and what we see over here is the normal smooth muscle cells. See how, see the size of these normal cells and compare with this. On the right hand side if you see, these are hypertrophied smooth muscle cells seen in a gravid uterus. See, the cell have increased in size, okay, as per the definition of hypertrophy. Okay, let us look at this image again. This is a very interesting image. If you see, compare the left hand side and the right hand side. So if you see the left hand side, see this part, this is how a normal brain looks like, and look at the right hand side, this is how an atrophied brain looks like. So this is a classical example of atrophy. See on the right hand side how the sulcus and gyrus, they are so deepened and they are so prominent as compared to the left hand side. Okay, so the sulcus and gyri have deepened, and why this has occurred? Because of atrophy. Now atrophy has many causes. Okay, I have already discussed those in my previous lectures, but see over here the basic reason for atrophy is a reduction of blood supply. Looking at the next image, okay, this is a wonderful example showing metaplasia. Now let me remind you what a metaplasia is. Metaplasia is a type of a cellular adaptation, number one. Number two, it is a cellular adaptation wherein the epithelium is changing from one type to another, but the parent tissue remains the same. Okay, what is the meaning of this? Let me explain. We are having three main kinds of tissue, for example, epithelial tissue, mesenchymal tissue, neural tissue. So under epithelial tissue, we are having, for example, columnar epithelium, cuboidal epithelium, okay, and we are having squamous epithelium. Okay, so whenever a columnar will change to squamous, or a squamous will change to columnar, or vice versa, whatever, okay, but they are among the epithelial tissue. Okay, there is change among the epithelial tissue. Okay, so this change is called as metaplasia. Okay, so epithelial changing to mesenchymal and mesenchymal changing to epithelial, this is not metaplasia. The parent tissue will have to remain the same. Okay, so if you look at this example on the left hand side, this is a columnar epithelium, which is a normal lining, okay, of the respiratory epithelium, and on the right hand side we see there is a metaplasia. There is a metaplasia, the columnar is changing into a squamous. So usually this is occurring in people who smoke. Okay, in smokers what will happen? The columnar epithelium, which is normal epithelium, changes into a squamous epithelium. Why this occurs? This occurs because of repeated irritation because of smoking. And the stratified epithelium, they are harder epithelium. So to adapt, okay, so to adapt to the new environment, okay, the columnar epithelium changes into a squamous epithelium. Okay, so this is an example of a metaplasia. Okay. Going to the next image. Okay, this is a classical example as we read the previous day, or in my previous lectures. If you see, we read about intracellular accumulation. So these blank spaces actually, okay, these are actually the fat vacuoles. These are intracellular deposition of fat, and they have actually pushed the nucleus towards the periphery. Now under histological section, if we see, what is basically happening is that during the processing, tissue processing, the fat is washed away. That is why under the microscope when we see, we can see certain blank spaces, okay, because these were spaces which were previously occupied by fat, and now because of processing, the fat has been washed off. This is a classical picture of fatty liver. Let us look at the next image. Now if we are looking at this image, this is a classical example of again intracellular accumulation. As we have seen, we have deposition of fat. Now over here we can see deposition of cholesterol and cholesterol ester in the lamina propria of the gallbladder. These are actually clusters of cholesterol laden macrophages. So these are all macrophages which are containing cholesterol and cholesterol ester, and the condition is called as cholesterolysis. Okay, it's called as cholesterolysis. If you look in my previous lectures of intracellular accumulation, you will find this. Okay. Look at this image. Now this is an image, okay, of again an intracellular accumulation, and what has accumulated over here? proteins have accumulated. We call it as reabsorption droplets. Okay, so how they have occurred, as I have already explained in my previous lectures, whenever there is proteinuria, okay, in renal diseases, excess amount of protein is filtered by the glomerulus. Now this protein will be taken up, will be reabsorbed. See, the term I am using is reabsorbed by the tubule. So these are the kidney tubules which have reabsorbed the proteins. Now these proteins, as per the definition, if you go back and see the proteins under histological section, they look as round eosinophilic bodies. Okay, these are round and highly eosinophilic. See how much pink they are compared. These are the normal tubules. These are the normal tubules. If you see, just compare it with them, and you see how much they are eosinophilic. See how much they are eosinophilic. So these pinkish structures that you see inside, these are nothing but deposition of proteins. Okay, and because they have been reabsorbed, that is why they are called as reabsorption droplets. Hope this is clear. Going to the next image. This is also, last class we had read about pigments. Pigments are also a sort of intracellular accumulation. So first I want to highlight you, see these brownish, these granular, perinuclear meaning surrounding the nucleus. Okay, these are also cytoplasmic. So these are perinuclear brownish cytoplasmic granules. Okay, these are called as lipofuscin granules, and I have already explained to you that lipofuscin granules are a product of lipid peroxidation, and they are a telltale sign of free radical injury. Again, an important MCQ, and these are classically seen in the heart. Okay, we also call it as the brown atrophy of the heart, seen in aging patients or in patients suffering from cancer cachexia. Let us look at the final image. Okay, if you look at this image, this is an image of dystrophic calcification. So what is actually, there are actually two types of calcification. One is dystrophic, one is metastatic calcification. You have to remember that dystrophic calcification usually takes place in dead tissues, in pathological tissues. And over here, in case of dystrophic calcification, if you see, the calcium metabolism is normal. Okay, whereas in case of metastatic calcification, if you see over there, the calcium metabolism is not normal. There is hypercalcemia. Okay, this is the basic difference. So here we are looking at an image of dystrophic calcification. So these are actually the stenosed aortic valve. Okay, they are the stenosed. Stenosed means they are blocked. The lumen have been completely reduced, and they were damaged valves. Okay, because of any reason, the valves were damaged. What happened that in these damaged valves, calcium started to deposit. Okay, calcium started to deposit, and these valves became stenosed. See on the outer aspect, this is the semilunar valves, and on the outer aspect we can see deposition of calcium as well. Okay, so this is an example of dystrophic calcification. Hope this was useful to you, and I will be coming up with more visual treats after every few lectures, face-to-face lectures. I will be coming up with more of such visual treat. Hope you have enjoyed these visual treats. Please do comment and share what you are thinking about these lectures so I can improve. Any feedback will be very, very, very useful for me. Thank you very much. Stay subscribed, stay tuned to my channel, and I will be posting very shortly many other videos. Stay tuned, stay subscribed. Thank you very much.